now the UK's biggest untapped oil field in the North Sea. So it's time for climate control. Was given the green light this week. The approval of the Rosebank oil field has, of course, faced widespread criticism from climate activists and environmental groups. But people who back the project, including Rishi Sunak, argue that it's an important step to weaning ourselves off foreign imports and achieving energy security. Now, this comes as New York declares a state of emergency due to flooding, with many quick to blame climate change for the extreme weather. So I'm joined now by Jim Dale, senior meteorologist of the British Weather Services, and Brian Catt, a physicist and an engineer. OK, so I'm going to start with you. Jim Dale, is there a problem with us using our own oil and gas, so drilling our own stuff? So surely it's saving transport costs and all sorts of things and reducing carbon emissions in terms of transport, at least.
No here.
You can't hear me. I'll go to Brian Catt. I'm going to start with Brian Catt. Brian, you heard what I said. Let's see what Brian Catt thinks.
I'm sorry. You're asking about Rosebank, right?
Yeah. So start with Rosebank. Then talk to me about why it's a good or bad thing.
Well, the interesting thing is it's an insignificant thing, and I was very surprised when you asked me to talk about it. It's 300 million barrels of oil, which is 6 months' supply for the UK and about 3 days for the world. So what I would do with it is retain it as a strategic reserve to take us through any sort of problem, because that's all it is, 6 months for the UK. We certainly shouldn't be giving it to somebody else to pump into a tanker and ship elsewhere, in my view.
So you think that it's a good thing that we have it and we should keep it as reserve, but actually we don't really need to use it because it's not going to provide us with much at all. 6 months is useful, though, in a blackout or something like that, isn't it?
Well, it could be useful if it's done that way. It would cost us a lot more to build a load of tanks to put it in. But the problem at the moment is the model that the government has, and this is the same with when we eventually get around to fracking the gas under the ground, it should be treated as a foreign reserve, as a sovereign reserve, and we should pay to have it extracted, and it's still the property of the country, not of the oil companies. And they haven't really figured out a good way to do that yet. We can't control where our gas and our oil goes.
What about what's going on in America? Because we're hearing that it's because of climate change. That's what people are saying.
Well, interesting. Yeah, Jim's the weatherman, and this is weather. It's not global climate. To say that it's down to global climate change would be a nonsense. We do know for sure, the IPCC reports all tell us that extreme events are not at an unusual level, nor are they unusually intense. But there are all sorts of reasons that this could. There could be a particularly warm and wet year. And one of them is Hunga Tonga's put 10% more water into the atmosphere. It just blew the ocean into the stratosphere. And we've got an El Nino going on at the same time. So it's going to be naturally warmer. And thanks to the volcano, there's a lot of more water waiting to come back down again. So, yeah, we may have some more than average rain when we do get extremes. The other extreme, which Jim will tell you about, I'm sure, is that this was Hurricane Ida, which got very energetic over the Gulf of Mexico, made its way up through Louisiana, and then it ran into a stalled front and was pushed up, which meant it dumped a lot more rain than it would otherwise have done. So it was a very freakish special condition. So all of this is weather.
It's weather. Jim, it's weather.
It's going to have any effect on the 30-year figure.
Well, let's work backwards. Let's start with what he said. He's called it weather. It's just weather. It's not climate change, really.
Yeah, they always do. First of all, I'd just like to say your dress is great. Lovely colour of green, right down my street. So well done for that one.
Thank you.
Right, the weather side of things. Look, this is exactly what climate deniers come up with every single time. Every time there's an impactful event, an extreme event, of which this was one of them. This was the second worst since Ida. Ida was obviously the first. This may actually supersede that. But what they tend to do is they don't join the dots. They don't see what is going on around the world. Time after time after time, what is going on in terms of the extremes. We were talking about Derna only a few weeks ago in Libya, and before then Greece, and then Greece and then heat waves all over the world, and Antarctica, the ice, the warmest that we've seen on record. In other words, that the ice is going. So, look, you can't pin everything on weather. Yes, you can't take one single event, even New York, say that is climate change per se. When you start to join the dots, and there's enough of them, you start to see a picture. And the picture is very, very clear, and it's backed by NASA, it's backed by NOAA, it's backed by the WMO. It's just not backed by Brian.
Well, listen, I get quite a lot of people messaging me with regard to some things that you say, Jim. And one of my viewers actually sent me this message. His name's Les McMenzie. And he said that Pakistan is prone to natural disasters, including earthquakes and flooding, especially during the monsoon season, coupled with intensive farming and land clearing and lack of river management are prime elements in a low-lying area. And he said that, because last week he said for Mr. Dale to use this tragic situation to spread doomsday is beyond belief. And he also mentioned about the Libya situation as well.
Yeah, let
he
me
said
answer
Libya
it.
for decades. Sorry, very quickly. He said Libya for decades. Lovely country, really nice people. What did he say about that? Yes, he used the flooding in Libya as an example of climate change. This is completely incorrect. The 2 dams collapsed due to lack of improper maintenance.
Exactly.
Facts and not assumptions.
Yeah. Okay, so look, 1 + 1 = 2. So on its own, these events, climate change will change nothing unless there's people there, unless the infrastructure is poor, that type of thing. Even New York with its heavily concreted area, etc. But that's where we live. That's how we are. So what climate change does is it adds to an extreme event. And that's exactly what we're saying. It's not in isolation. You can't say that is just climate change. It's an extreme event, an unusual event added to by climate change that leads to those very nice people in Libya.
Libya, which you did point out earlier, was some dams breaking, apparently. So there was some dams burst in Libya, which caused a lot of the flooding. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you even brought it in just now, and I just pointed out a fact.
Behind the dams.
Sorry, say that again, Brian?
All the water was behind the dams. There was a flash flood, and the dams were already cracked, and they gave way. So,
Brian, there's 1 point.
Let Brian finish. Let Brian finish. Go on, Brian.
I don't need to. There was a heavy flood. It's very usual in the Atlas Mountains. That's why the wadis are there in the first place. And the design was stupid and badly maintained. What you need is culverts to divert water away. They had the wadi running straight through the middle of a city, which was just an accident waiting to happen, like, I don't know, Lymouth or somewhere like that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the Atlas Mountains are the other side of Africa, but never mind. Let's just say 1.4 inches of rain was measured as a 6-hour rainfall. 1.4, that's about half the annual rainfall that we see in the UK over the course of the year. So this was an extreme event. Look, it's been shown. The scientists have looked at this straight away, said this is climate change topped. It would not have happened with the two things. In other words, with the structure that was poor, and then the 1.4 inches of rainfall that happened in the first instance. So it's as I say, it's 1 + 1 = 2. You get a disaster.
This is painful.
No,
Brian, last word
not
to you quickly.
The one thing that I said at the beginning, which he doesn't seem to listen to, is that the IPCC, who are supposedly the experts at all this, the one thing they have not been able to say for virtually all of the reports up to the 6th that the currently running is the current one, is that there is no significant evidence that there are more extreme events or that those extreme events are more extreme than they have been in the past. If anything, they're slightly less extreme. So just going to each extreme event... Sorry, this is the case. Let me finish.
You're making it up as you go along.
No, I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. It's exactly what the IPCC report says. If you go to the scientific
hang on.
report...
Jim Dale, last word to you, because you said it's not, so I'll give you 20 seconds. So I've got to go to the news.
They're well on top of this. They know exactly what's going on. Brian is I'm not going to say he's lying, but he's just misinforming, basically. IPCC do not say what he says. Just make this absolutely clear. Guys, anybody listening, just join the dots around the world. Watch what's going to go on in the Southern Hemisphere this summer, their summer, and you'll see more of these dots being joined.
All right, Jim Dale, thank you very much. Jim Dale.
You're welcome.
Jim Dale, Senior Meteorologist, British Weather Services, and also Brian Catt, Physicist and Engineer. That was Climate Control. Thank you very much.